Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And people have asked me to look into OmarIsuf's hernia. So I did, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And this actually explains a lot to me about the direction Omar's channel has gone lately. And I actually get it. I understand what he's doing from a marketing perspective now. It makes a lot of sense. But for the unaware, Omar has a hernia, right? He has a hernia. Now, he's not sure if it's an inguinal hernia or if it's a sports hernia. But we know that these sort of hernias, they do have a genetic component. He addressed that multiple times. That actually is true. There is a large genetic component to predisposition to these sort of hernias, meaning just because you lift heavy or train or anything else doesn't mean that you're going to get one of these. And as he said, his brother got one who doesn't even lift. So it's like, do you even lift, bro? And apparently not. Now, he says it still needs to get it further diagnosed. He needs to get, I think, an MRI and everything to determine the extent of it, if he's going to need surgery or anything else. But this has limited Omar's training. Now, what people need to remember, what they need to remember is that Omar essentially got to like a 500 squat and a 600 deadlift before his genetic predisposition for the hernia came out. So, I mean, that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's an important thing to keep in mind. Like I used to have a friend who was predisposed to these and he had to get surgery and everything, but his didn't come out until he actually got on anabolics and had run multiple cycles because he just wasn't strong enough before that for it to become a problem. But once he got on gear and his strength went up, actually after multiple blasts, that guy actually started having these problems they developed because he just was genetically predisposed to them. And he was a pretty strong dude natural, by the way. The guy I'm talking about is not like he was a weakling or anything. But, you know, once he started doing that, he really started pushing the poundages and the tonnages up, and then it started to become a problem. So, I mean, what people need to keep in mind here, when you're genetically predisposed to these things, it doesn't automatically mean that heavy training is going to take you there. It's that you're at a much higher risk when you start pushing it to a serious level. Because let's be realistic about Omar's strength. To be under 200 pounds and to squat 500 or deadlift 600, anything in that range, when you weigh less than 200 pounds, we're getting up there. That's you're not playing around anymore. That's not just recreational strength training. Because I tell people that, like, you do not have to worry about a lot of the problems that happen with serious strength with just a basic non-specialized strength training. In other words, I always tell people, if you're just trying to get to a 400 squat or a 500 deadlift, which doesn't require a powerlifting type program to do that, it shouldn't. The odds that you're going to run into the problems that we start thinking of, the various issues from lifting really heavy, are not really going to be there as long as you programmed carefully and safely to get up to that. With a proven program and you took care of yourself, you're just really unlikely to get hurt. So in the case of even something like Omar's hernia, look at the numbers he hit before it became a problem. He had hit a 500 squat quite some time before that. Right? It's not like he got to a 500 squat and then all of a sudden he got hurt. He had been squatting 500, or able to do so, for quite a long period of time. And it started coming out when he was doing his Olympic lifting because he wanted to branch into Olympic lifting. And I get that. That's cool. I dig that. I mean, part of me looks at that and says, you know, it'd be awesome to get into Olympic lifting eventually. Maybe my age would be a problem. But, you know, if I was in the right circumstance and had some decent coaching and everything, I'd mess with Olympic lifting more. I think it's pretty cool. I like it. I actually like the idea of it. I think it's fantastic. It just requires a bit more finesse and coaching, and I know that myself, I'm not personally qualified to teach Olympic lifting. You know, that's one reason I don't discuss it a lot on this channel. Then I tell people, hey, learning power cleans and snatches could be valuable to you, particularly if you want to be more athletic. I think those are valuable lifts. But, you know, me personally, I'm not qualified to teach them. I'll just be honest, I'm not. So he started running into problems there, and that makes sense because of those deep catch positions and everything you have to do for some of the lifts. And you notice it a lot more like on the power clean, so it makes sense. So now I'm starting to understand what's going on with Omar. I mean, his channel is a massive revenue driver. Like, realistically speaking, he makes a lot of money. He makes a lot of money on YouTube. And anyone who thinks, oh, what's he making? You know, middle class guys, I make middle class income. All right, look at the size of my channel versus Omar's. My income is higher than average, or say median American income. My income from this channel, just this channel, is probably higher, slightly higher than median income for an American. All right. His channel is easily, what, I don't know, 5 times the size of mine. You know, kind of think about that and do the math yourself. Omar's income off of YouTube probably puts him in the top 5% of income earners. I'd be willing to venture, at least for where he lives, even for his part of the world, for Canada, I'd be willing to bet his channel revenue alone probably puts him in the top 5%. So you've got something like that, and he has built his entire career off strength training and promoting strength training, which I actually appreciate. Like I said, I've gotten upset with Omar lately for the direction his channel has gone, because he's branched away from what his passion was, what made him, what helped his audience, what I think of with OmarIsuf's. I haven't been happy with that. And then I see him talking about, the bodybuilding stuff, and I'm thinking, he's not passionate about that. You don't just jump up one day and all of a sudden become passionate about hypertrophy training when your entire life has revolved around strength and athletic training, right? Powerlifting and Olympic lifting and this other stuff. Omar has always been a performance-based guy. Usually you see stuff go the other direction. The majority of people who change later in life, meaning the other direction. They usually go from doing the bodybuilding type stuff, and I don't want to call it bodybuilding. They go from worrying about their physique primarily to more performance and athletic and fitness endeavors is usually the shift you see. The other way is more common. And so you have someone like Omar who's been passionate for like a decade about serious strength training, but all of a sudden start worrying about this stuff. And I don't think it's his true passion. It comes down to marketing, and it's smart. Now that I see what's happening and I see what's going on, you got a guy with the hernia. He may have to have surgery. He may not be able to lift heavy, or he may be able to lift heavy again after the surgery, after it heals. But then he's always going to be at risk if he gets himself back to a 500 squat again, things like that. He is always going to be at risk for this happening again, because these sort of hernias, they are genetic in nature. If you're genetically predisposed to them, you tend to get them. They're a real risk, and if his brother had one, he's now had one. This is very much a genetic thing, and so if he starts trying to push himself back to the same strength levels he was at, he is always going to be at risk, and he's going to need something to continue to market himself. I mean, honestly, once you're making that sort of money that Omar is making from a channel like this, you don't want to give that up. It doesn't make sense to, because if you can build a career and an outreach in an endeavor like that that's going to put you into a deep 6-figure income, why would you want to branch away from that to go do something else when you've already established yourself? You know, you've made a name for yourself. You've put in all those years of hard work and groundwork. Why would you jump over and just quit that and go away from it? No, he's just going to have to evolve it. And I look at it now. Now I understand. I understand now why he's making that choice. It makes sense in light of that. It is about maintaining his career. It is about maintaining his outreach. It's about maintaining the income and outreach and everything else that he spent all those years building. If it turns out that he can't continue to go in the direction he is passionate about, he's just going to redirect his efforts, his work, his channel, his outreach towards something that's a little bit different, but still maintain most of his base, grow a new set of followers who are interested in the other stuff, and he's going to just continue to grow his outreach and grow as a channel. Do I think he'd be successful in that regard? Yeah, I think so. Honestly, even though I don't like the direction he's going, it's not my bag, it's not my cup of tea. I'm unhappy with that. When I look at that from a perspective of him wanting to be able to do what he loves for a living and make the great money he's doing it, continue his outreach, because I mean, YouTube is his gig, man. I mean, and he's been pretty good at it. I get it. It makes sense. I can't knock the guy for going that direction. You know, I really can't, because I would look at that and say, if I was in Omar's situation, if me personally, because it's one thing to say I don't like the direction someone's going, but when we ask ourselves, would I do the same thing? If I was in Omar's shoes right now, had an issue from heavy lifting and heavy training, and I had this enormous outreach and a very good income based upon it, would I kind of go the direction he's trying to go now? Because I might have to shut down what I'm doing otherwise, or just shift the focus a bit to continue to do the thing that I'm passionate about and have made a great living doing. I think most of us would. I think most of us would. And so if that's really what's going on and his hernia is the reason for this shift in direction, I can dislike the shift in direction, but I totally understand why he's doing it. I get it. I don't think that makes him a bad person. I'm not going to judge that aspect of it, because I know that I would do something similar in his shoes, and I think most of us would. We really would. So from a business perspective, a career perspective, him talking more about bodybuilding style training and hypertrophy and getting a little bit away from the ultra heavy lifting because of that hernia, it does make sense. It makes sense. I get it, man. I get it. It makes perfect sense now, and now it's all falling into place. It's not just about doing it just to be greedy. It's about maintaining what he has. It makes perfect sense. And again, I don't even see that as being a bad or a wrong thing. I mean, he's got to do what he's got to do. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.